Hi there, it's Tammy here. And in this short video, I'm going to talk about the connection between training during pregnancy and feeling more confident in your body's ability to birth your baby. So if you're experiencing some type of fear or concern around your birth and you want to know how training can help with this, then this video is absolutely for you. And of course, there is no doubt that labor and birth are the metaphorical fire that women have to experience to complete their first cycle through their maternal metamorphosis. And the reality is, most women fear childbirth in some way, shape, or form. And as one of my male friends whose baby was just born the other day, obviously at the time I recorded this, anyway, as he recently put it, getting it in there is the fun, easy part. Getting it out is a whole other story. And of course, you know, a male's perspective can be refreshingly simple at times. And clearly, their conception journey was unassisted. But over the years, I've noticed that women do tend to sit in one of two camps, right? They either found childbirth to be an amazing, empowering, strengthening experience, or their birth experience held some more, let's say, negative connotations, right? And you can't even place these in two distinct camps of vaginal or cesarean section births, because I've heard of beautiful stories of both cesarean section and vaginal births where the mothers definitely had wonderful, positive, empowering experiences. And I've also heard stories where C-section mothers actually liken their experience to feeling like they're on a butcher's block. And, you know, I've also heard stories of vaginal births where they were traumatic for either the mother, the baby, or both. And the reality is you can't actually say that one birth mode is better than the other, because both have their pros and cons. And the experience of labor and birth is truly a complex, multidimensional experience, which is completely unique to the individual having it. Not only that, but as a process, labor and birth is a combination of the physical, emotional, and psychological experience. And the reasons that you fear it can also range from the physical, mental, and emotional to the completely unconscious. And whatever the reason, and of course we'll look at some of these really soon, it's actually really important for you to know that fearing childbirth is completely normal. So if you have some type of fear or concern around this, you are absolutely not alone in this. In fact, it's so normal. They've even done studies that show about 45% of women had a fear of childbirth. And some studies show up to 78% of women fear childbirth. And to be honest, I think that number is probably a little bit closer to reality. So not only is fear of childbirth so common that anywhere between 45 and 78% of women experience it, but other studies have also estimated that 1 in 7 women actually experience severe fear of childbirth. You hear that? You heard me correctly. 1 in 7. That's so many. And just so we're clear, fear of childbirth encompasses everything from severe fear, anxiety, or concern specifically in relation to childbirth. But what I'm not talking about here is something called tocophobia, which is a pathological fear of pregnancy. Pathological meaning extreme or very powerful feelings that cannot be controlled. This is actually a disorder that requires recognition, diagnosis, and of course, treatment. So I'm definitely not talking about that. What I'm talking about around fear around childbirth are things that might stem from things like physical, psychological, or an emotional place. And almost every woman experiences this as they get closer to the big day. And these fears can stem from internal sources like suffering from pregnancy-related anxiety or depression, or experiencing negative moods, or having negative thought processes or a negative mindset surrounding your birth. Then, of course, you have external sources, which might be something like being told negative stories by your friends and family, or, of course, the good old Google searches that end up in you becoming completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of alarming information that there is out there. Now, of course, you have physical sources, and these might be things like you have a medical condition or the baby has a medical condition that increases the chances of complications during your birth. Or things like, if you've experienced a traumatic birth in the past, this would also contribute to your fears around childbirth, as well as, things like if you have a history of trauma. Now, while your fears may come from internal or external sources, fears around birth tend to revolve around some common themes, right? And I think understanding these themes and recognizing which ones that you actually identify with is the beginnings of knowing how to overcome your fears around childbirth. Because once you understand which area or areas are causing your fears, you can actually actively start addressing them. And the sooner you do this, obviously, the better. So let's take a quick look at some of the most common themes surrounding fear of childbirth. And they would be things like you fear the unknown and not being able to plan for the unpredictable. You're afraid of childbirth because you have no reference point of what the pain is actually really going to feel like. And because of this, you lack confidence that your body and your mind can withstand it. Or, you may generally lack confidence in your body's ability to give birth. You fear not being able to cope with the pain. You may fear being harmed during the birth. Or, of course, you may fear that your baby might be harmed, or you're afraid of the stress to the baby during their birth. You may fear childbirth because you fear losing control or not having control. Or you may fear medical interventions that are out of your control. Now, another one of the reasons you may fear childbirth is because you fear not being heard or listened to during the birth and not being able to influence what happens during your labor. You may fear childbirth because you let me get this out right. You may fear being abandoned or left alone during childbirth, or you may simply fear childbirth without knowing why. Now, I wholeheartedly believe that the power in the process comes from being educated around your options. And this relates to your pregnancy, the birth, and of course, within your 4th trimester as well. And the more knowledge you have that allows you to prepare your body physically during your pregnancy, the more confidence you're going to have going into the birth. And of course, continuing to train throughout your pregnancy is a huge factor in all of this. And when I say train, I'm not talking about following some generic trimester-based exercise videos that you find online for free. I'm talking about following a structured, individualized strength training program that's correctly timed, correctly structured, correctly sequenced, and adjusts over time as your pregnancy progresses. And I truly believe that this is the way to prepare your body for the birth. A generic free trimester-based workout, I'm sorry to say, it's just not going to cut it. Training during pregnancy has the capacity to give you confidence that you're carrying your baby strongly, and that you trust your body's ability to birth your baby. And one of my clients who had a beautiful, beautiful birth found it empowering going into her birth, feeling that she was carrying her baby strongly, that her body was capable of carrying the pregnancy extremely well. So it gave her confidence that it was capable of birthing it well as well. And this, of course, is where the psychology aspect of it comes in. And I actually have a really great story that relates to this. And a client of mine who was pregnant with her second baby, now I'd trained her during and post her first child, and during her first pregnancy and then post. Now, throughout her second pregnancy, we were right in the final weeks before she was giving birth, and she was feeling really, really good, really strong, really capable. She felt her body was ready for the birth. So psychologically, this was adding a huge amount of confidence for her going into the birth, right? Now, after one particular session, she actually felt really sore and was in pain afterwards. Now, of course, for me, this was really worrying because I wondered whether we'd done something in that training session that had caused this. But for her, all this amazing confidence in her body's ability started to evaporate. And all of a sudden, she was doubting herself and her body's ability, through this process. If it couldn't handle a training session that she'd done the week before, how on earth could it handle the actual birth? So that was her thought process, right? Now, this is going to sound a bit weird, but thankfully for her, it actually eventuated that what was causing the pain and soreness was in fact shingles. Not ideal, of course, but once this diagnosis came about, what actually came back was the confidence that her body was ready. And it wasn't the training session, but something else entirely that was causing the pain and the soreness. So continuing to train during pregnancy is so important, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a psychological and emotional perspective as well. The stronger and more capable your body feels going into the birth, the more confidence that you're going to have in your body's ability to give birth and withstand the pain. And preparing your physical body in other ways, such as things like birth prep with a specialist women's health physio or participating in birth courses. These not only prepare you physically, but psychologically and emotionally as well. Now, obviously, this isn't the post or this isn't the video to go into detail on birth prep or birthing courses. However, you will absolutely find all of this is covered in the pregnancy process program, because I believe training during pregnancy, doing a birth course or a birth prep course with a women's health physio come under the kind of heading of ticking all the boxes when you're coaching the pregnant population. And something that as a coach, I believe that you're responsible to open the conversation around. So as a coach, that's what I feel responsible for. And when you can look back and know with certainty that you've done everything right, you've ticked all the right boxes, you've done absolutely everything that you can to prepare yourself for the birth, then you can't help but feel confident in your body's abilities. Of course, there may be a little bit of fear, but there's confidence there as well. And this is only going to add to your overall confidence going into the birth. And that has got to be a positive as far as I'm concerned. And of course, throughout this journey of ticking all the boxes, you gain knowledge, right? So you gain knowledge around the various pain medication options available to you, the types of interventions that are possible during the birth. Again, all of these are covered in the pregnancy process program, so I'm not going to cover them here. But when you have an understanding of all of this, you can then collaborate with your healthcare providers around birth plans. You can discuss what options you're comfortable with and what pathways or medical interventions that you're not comfortable with. Now, granted, birth plans are guides, but unless you open the conversation and become part of it, you're left in the place of fear that you're not going to be heard. On the flip side of this, having these conversations will increase your confidence that you'll be heard, that you'll be part of the decision-making process at your birth. And I also believe that having the support of a community to share your experiences with, to share your journey with, along with your fears, allows you to get some air around any kind of fear or anxiety that you're having surrounding your birth. Because as the saying goes, a problem shared is a problem halved. And I certainly know firsthand that at times when things kind of rattle around in your head, so they kind of can grow disproportionately, or we begin to spiral the minute when we tend to spiral, but then the minute we start to talk about them, your fears kind of shrink. And even the process of writing something down, like how those in my private community might share something, with others in the community or with myself, that process of writing something down can actually help begin the process of unraveling where the fears come from in your own mind. And of course, if you are interested in joining my complimentary but private community, you can just head to the link in my bio or the video description and apply. Now, another tool that can be used is something called the Fear of Birth Questionnaire. So the Fear of Birth Questionnaire was designed and developed by 2 clinical psychologists and a research psychologist and a consultant midwife. And while this hasn't actually been implemented in clinical practice, it's certainly a tool that you could adopt as kind of like a self-check-in if you're starting to experience fears around your birth. And this is something that I share with the members of my community. But I'm going to attach the link to this questionnaire in the video description in case, of course, it helps you on your own journey. And I'm pretty sure that they won't mind if I do that either. So I'll attach that in the video description. Again, the earlier that you can identify how you're feeling, the sooner that you can speak to your healthcare provider around it. And I'm also a huge believer in seeking professional help. So you may even want to speak to someone who specializes in perinatal mental health or pregnancy psychology. And regardless of whether you speak to your healthcare provider, a pregnancy psychologist, or your support network, the key factor with all of these things is addressing and managing any kind of anxiety, concern, or fears that you have surrounding the birth, creating coping mechanisms and putting plans in place to help ease this. But don't forget, you must absolutely speak to your healthcare provider around your concerns. It's really, really important that you share them. If they don't know, they can't help you. And it's also a really good opportunity for you to help build trust with them. And finally, before I go, just remember the power in the pregnancy process is becoming educated around your options. So if you want to join the conversation inside my private community, just head to the link in my bio or the video description to apply. So that's it for me today. I hope this video helped, and I'll see you in the next one.